All right. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the July 2023 WSU Extension Master Gardener Program Coordinator meeting. Thanks for joining us this afternoon. Here comes Tessa. So I have a couple of announcements, and then we have Kenitra Keeney on the call with us today to talk about civil rights compliance and some changes that are heading our way. So first of all, announcements. I only have received like maybe 6 or 8 RSVPs to the September 27th in-person program coordinator meeting. It is time for me to start ordering food for that and working on logistics. If you plan to attend, please let me know ASAP. Even if you put it in the chat right now, I'll take your name down. So I've heard from Patty, Alex, Tessa, Bridget, Mary, Harmony, Laurel, and Elena. And here comes Katie. So if you haven't RSVP'd, please let me know what your intentions are so I can plan around that. Some really fantastic news I get to share. This is very exciting. It's something that I've been working on for quite some time. So y'all know we've been working on the update to the curriculum and the manual. So we've been really focused on the manual. That is nearing completion, but dotting all the I's and crossing all the T's takes quite some time. So I told you last month that won't actually be ready until the fall of 2024. But in the meantime, I received funding to hire what we're calling a Master Gardener lecturer. And this person will be responsible for updating all of the online modules in Canvas, developing a climate change module, the pollinator health module, and bringing all of the current modules up to date. So that person is Bryce Battisti. So you have met him. Yes, he is hired, and you've met him. He comes to us with great experience in Canvas, creating adult education, and I'm very excited to have him on board. He will start at the end of August. So when he'll be a part of this team and a part of our crew, and any support you can give him, connect him to different faculty and staff in your office who have the skills and abilities to help develop those modules, would be much appreciated. But so that's very exciting. I'm so excited about that. And then my last announcement before I turn it over to Kenitra, I learned today that the Advanced Education Conference event for volunteers, if you have a volunteers in your counties who want to volunteer at the conference, that event will post to your counties on August 2nd. So you'll probably see that show up in your county GivePulse group. And Sandra Mangan in Pierce County is working on a handout that will walk you through how to send out the link to volunteers so that they can sign up for that event if they want to do that. So, but I just wanted to give you a heads up that was going to show up. Volunteers won't be able to see it until you send it to them. So don't worry about that. But if you see it, that's why. Any quick questions about any of that?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that one more time? What are they not going to be able to see? Something with the Advanced Education Conference?
Yeah. So we need a lot of volunteers to make sure that conference goes off without a hitch, right? And so there is an event that has been created in GivePulse and it will post to your county group page on August 2nd. But it's my understanding that won't show to volunteers until you put it there for them.
Oh,
So
okay.
you'll get instructions on how to do all of that.
Okay, cool. Because I can already see it myself and I see that it's not available and
Okay.
and okay.
Yeah,
Let's just keep talking about it after the fact. I thought it was already live and I've been sharing the link, so I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And I wanted to clarify, Jennifer, that now the manual will be ready in fall 2024.
The new one. Yep.
Okay.
We'll continue using the current one.
Okay.
The work that Bryce does be going online before the manual does? No. It will be later. Okay. So now I would like to introduce you to Kenitra Keeney. She is the Extension County Relations person in Connors, and she has been working on our civil rights compliance. I think most of you probably know, but in 2018, USDA NEFA came to WSU and did a civil rights review. I happened to be in one of the counties where they did that review. There were many findings from that, and Kenitra has been helping us address those findings across WSU Extension and Connors. And she is here today because they're coming back in 2024. USDA NEFA is coming back in 2024 to do another review, and Kenitra is here today to walk us through the changes that we have to make in the Master Gardener program to be in compliance. She's going to give you some context and, but so we'll work through it together. Kenitra, thanks for coming today. And you're on mute, Kenitra. We cannot see you or hear you. We can see you, but we can't hear you.
All right, I'm sorry about that. I'm trying to get this screen thing together. Well, hello everyone. I've seen some of you before. I've talked to quite a few of you before. Today I'm going to cover a lot of information. I usually don't try to overwhelm people, but it's so hard to connect the dots without understanding why. So my goal is to answer some of the why. We're going to talk about some of the how, and we're going to have at the end a little bit of conversation on how to have conversation about these topics. You will have, of course, this recording, but you also, if you want the PowerPoint presentation, I will give that to Jennifer and she can send that out as she sees fit. And then you can always contact me if you have questions or kind of like, hey, what did you say? Or I don't quite understand it. What do you guys see on my screen? Do you see a PowerPoint presentation?
Yes, now we do. Yep.
All right.
Okay.
So here's my contact information, and you can always reach out to me. Just want to gently remind everybody that WSU is an equal opportunity service provider. We do have a statement of non-discrimination. And if you yourself have witnessed or feel that you have been discriminated against, here are your 3 options to report this. You can go to your local extension office, you can contact WSU Compliance and Civil Rights, or you can use the information on the Justice for All posters. These Justice for All posters should be wherever there's any kind of programming, because it's 1, available in different languages. 2, it lets people know that they are entitled to free language access and accommodations, as well as how to file a complaint. So real quickly, we're going to talk about what civil rights are, and we're going to talk about what the program should look like, a civil rights program. We're going to talk about some difficult conversations and show support, and then we'll get into some questions. So USDA NEFA is a federal agency of federal government. So when they come in, they're going to really focus on these 5 tiles. But we know that Washington State and WSU, they are allowed to add their own spin and add like more stringent requirements. And so this is kind of what WSU's protected classes look like. Now, while this is important to uphold, what you need to be mindful of is that NEFA is going to hold us to the five federal laws. So what is discrimination? It shows up in our policies, practice, and procedures, and that's what NIFA is going to look at for our review in 2024. And it shows up in two ways. It's either intentional or unintentional. It is some people's belief that if it's intentional, it's discrimination. If it's unintentional, it's not discrimination. That is not correct. Both are discrimination, both are illegal. So that's kind of why we have this review, to kind of make us dig deep, think about our practices, our behaviors, our decisions, and our policies to see if we're excluding anyone. So here's a couple of examples, denying of educational or employment opportunities because of protected class, giving a person less advantageous working conditions or educational opportunities because of their protected class, or maintaining practices or policies that disproportionately impact protected class. Again, whether you're doing it intentionally or unintentionally, that's not the concern. And then finally, when we look at ADA, we need to be able to provide that and not just quickly say, no, we can't do that. We need to get someone else involved in the process. So basically, if you receive federal funds or work with someone who gets federal funds, you have to apply by this, but you also need to look at the total available service population, because every one of them has the right to civil rights. It's illegal to discriminate. Your federal funding is going to be at risk. If you do some kind of discrimination or prevent people from joining, you might damage the reputation of your program or the institution that's supporting it. And then also all the work that is being done helps WSU with its land grant university mission. So one of the things we're going to talk about today is race, ethnicity, and gender data. And we're going to talk about why it's important. But these are going to be all the things that are really in your civil rights plans. There's plenty of information on TEAMS, the TEAMS website. And I know Jennifer can share some of this stuff with you. There's also information on our WSU website. But it really all starts right here with this RAG data. From there, we can do parity analysis with our census data, do a barrier analysis, kind of understand who we're serving, who we're not serving. We can train our employees, and then we can do our internal reviews. And this is what civil rights is in a nutshell. We're going to look at the available service population. We're going to look at who we're serving, and then we're going to look at who's making the decisions. And between that data triangulation, then we're able to form those policies, practices, and procedures. And when we look at this power dynamic, what you're seeing is anybody who makes decisions, anybody who delivers services. So this includes your advisory boards of volunteers. So Jennifer talked a little bit about how we had a review in 2018. All these blue dots were findings from our 2018 review and are still outstanding. We've not been able to make progress. So that's why you're going to see some emphasis. The ones in red are all RAG data. So that's why we need to focus on that. And the ones in yellow are very policy driven, but we can't get to these until we get to the ones in red. Just let you know, it's not a WSU only complicated issue. This is what NIFA did for last year or for 2022. When they went through and they did their reviews, they found that language access, that out of the 18 reviews they did, that there were 18 findings. Civil rights knowledge and procedures, 18 findings. Advisory boards and committees, 14 out of 18. Public notification and outreach, 14 out of 18. And then data collection, 3. Non-discrimination based on sex, 8. This RAG data is really kind of all throughout here. And so if we can't get RAG data, then it probably means that we're not doing this as well. So now this is where I think the part that's probably more applicable. That was just kind of a quick overview. All right, so RAG data, this is the minimum. What I'm going to give you, the examples I'm going to give you is the minimum amount of data. Not only is it the minimum amount of data that you can collect, it's the minimum way to report it. It must be self-identified, no more observational. That is not, if somebody looked at me and said, oh, she's only African-American, then they're only letting half of me be identified. I would like to select 2 or more races. So that's why we give them some kind of Qualtrics or some kind of questionnaire so that they can define how they want to be identified. So if you have volunteers or somebody who's saying, no, I'm going to do observational, please let them know that that is not okay. That has changed. I'm going to give you examples of some of the basic races that are according to the US Census data. I've also given you some definitions. For example, I may not know what Black or African American covers, or I may not know what Asian means, or specifically we see it in white when we see people of Middle East or North Africa. I could be from one of those and may not identify as white. So that's why I would say have these definitions available. You can also have some cultural things. Sometimes somebody from the Middle East may not culturally identify as white. So this will help you. For the 2 or more races, it's recommended that you put click all that apply or mark all that apply, so that people can fully identify themselves. If you just put 2 or more races and just give that little box, sometimes it doesn't give them a chance to fully express themselves. And then other unidentified is the final category. These 2 are in green because they didn't used to be a thing. You have in extension, we have people who have been here for a lot of years. We have people who are fairly new. And the people who have been here for a while, maybe when they went through the civil rights review at some point in their career, they weren't asked these or they weren't told they needed to collect this data. So that's why it's in green. Ethnicity, again, these are the 3 questions: Hispanic or Latino, not Hispanic or Latino, unidentified. You as a program may decide that you want to get some more granular data because maybe you're looking for health disparities or attendance, or you're looking for something and you want to see, I don't think Cuban and Puerto Rican are the same. I don't think they respond the same. So you could collect that, but when you report it, it's going to be 1, 2, or 3. Gender, male, female, other unidentified. Again, if you want to collect gender orientation, you are most welcome to do that if you feel that that's going to help your program. But when we report it, it just needs to be male, female, other unidentified. One of the biggest reasons for this is the US Census does not collect gender orientation. So there's nothing to compare it to. There's not a parity. So it means that you internally could look from year to year to year to see if you are moving the needle in either direction. But it doesn't, from a national perspective, help the report. OMB has made some changes. So like how I talked about, somebody from Middle East who may not identify as white, they're going to make some changes to this, to what we do collect. So there's going to be changes in 2024. I have some resources on here if you're interested. It's a complex conversation. So you can look through that. Notice that the changes in 2024 will not be me. I'm not driving that. This is the federal government that is going to drive that. So basic reason why we collected is we need to identify the available service population. We need to tailor outreach and our public notifications. We're going to prioritize our fund, create some relevant programming that reaches the available population. We need to have some advocacy. 2 big areas are going to be that language access plan, ADA accommodations. And then the final one, just increase representation to those providing services. The parity analysis, the tool that I'm going to show you, does a parity analysis for you, so you don't have to worry about that anymore. Back in the day, you would collect your data, you'd have to take it to your county tribal location, you would have to do some kind of analysis on each program. We won't have to do that if we use this tool. And once we get this tool fully operating, full and loaded, and we can kind of sit back and look at where we are, then we can start to do a barrier analysis and ask ourselves some really tough questions. And then it's just going to help us kind of hold people accountable. There's been a lot of times where I've talked to some locations and they'll say, yeah, we know we're not at parity, and meh. And I get it, no judgment, but it's kind of like, well, how do you hold someone accountable? And that's how we're going to do it with this tool. So I don't know how many are familiar. I walk into some audiences where it seems like people have heard of this before, collecting RIG data, and it seems like some people have never heard of this before. So to collect it, you're going to use a Qualtrics. If you don't have access to a Qualtrics, I know Jennifer does, and she can send it to you. I can also send it to you. Use QR codes, paper, pencil. Just make sure you protect the participant's identity. And then we're going to look at this reporting tool. So you're going to click on reporting form. I guess I got to fill that link. I'll find it a different way. Then we have a download and unprotect the sheet. There's an Excel tutorial that we did the other day. Then we have some FAQs. Let me stop sharing real quick. Can you see the WSU Extension webpage? Okay, so here, go to Civil Rights Compliance. Go to the bottom. What is going on with my? I am so sorry. This worked today. I ran through it. I promise you before. That's not good. Okay.
I was just in there, Kenitra, and was able to pull that down.
Oh, why? I had network issues this morning. That's why I had to come into the office. So I'm trying to see.
Oh, I have the same, I'm getting the same, I'm getting the same.
Okay, I'll skin this cat a different way, hopefully. Let me see. Give me a second, I apologize. Let's see if we can do it a different way. Let me see. Okay, can you see Teams? So here you'll go to, each one of you will have a title, a different kind of title, and Jennifer will have to send you, because I created a channel for you all this morning. Jennifer, did you get the invitation?
I did, yep. I
Okay.
was trying to figure out how to get the tool into it, but yeah.
I can help with that. And so she's gonna assign you all to your own channel. You're gonna go and click County by Contacts. Okay, and this is basically what the sheet will look like. And so one of the things that Jennifer is going to do is, and what I'm doing, where I'm coming from, is I'm saying moving forward that volunteer data should be collected using GivePulse. So I will put it in the policy that GivePulse is the primary way of collecting volunteer REG data. So we'll be able to pull that number and put it in here. Jennifer is also going to give you all guidance on what training resources are available. So if somebody doesn't know how to use GivePulse, that will come from her office. She's going to give you guidance on what is outreach and what is educational. What I mean by that is if you do an outreach event, which is mostly advertising, you don't need to collect REG. But if you do an event that provides some kind of service, some kind of educational service, then you need to collect REG. There's some FAQs on the webpage that I can't show you because I can't get into, but right where I was clicking, there'll be some FAQs in there that you can read through, but Jennifer will give you that guidance. So all of the coordinators will use this Excel spreadsheet. You will come in here. And we're going to do county and tribal location. The reason why that's important is it's going to help us to be able to see by county who is meeting REG. Then you can do program activity here. And then you can do like name of event. And again, Jennifer can help give you guidance because it depends on how you want to disaggregate the data and how you want to tell your stories. I don't know who your stakeholders are. So I don't know if you have a particular relationship with a community partner and you think that they would benefit from the data being put in a certain way. Then you have a brief description. And then for here, there's a little drop down box. What you're going to do is you're going to download this. Let me see if I can show it. And there's a tutorial. There's a link in here where. Come on. So here you'll have your little, you'll be able to like put, I think Jennifer, what did you decide? That's garden, ag, and natural resources? That's what you want everything under?
It's not probably going to be everything. We're going to have to divide up our activities. Yeah.
Okay. So defer to Jennifer for how she wants that done. And then you'll just do your REG. You got your gender, you've got your races, and then your ethnicity. I tried to pattern this off of the Qualtrics so that all you have to do is cut and paste. Hold on, we're almost done, I promise. I know it's a lot. Can you see my screen? What screen are you seeing now?
We're not. Do you see the PowerPoint? Yep.
Good. Okay, so now we're gonna kind of get into the part where we talk about the difficult conversation. So a lot of times we're gonna get some questions on why do I need to collect data when no one is filling out the survey? One of the challenges is that a lot of times people will kind of do this exclusion. We're all just, we're all human. We all this, we all that. The REG data is the receipts. If you're doing all that great work and you're, really putting in the effort and you're really, diversifying your teams and your programs, then we need to try to collect when possible. The reason why this is important is because when NIFA comes, if we can say, hey, look, NIFA, we've been trying to do REG data. We've been trying to develop relationships. We've been trying to explain the importance of how this data is informing how we do programming and making sure our programming is relevant, then they can help us target and focus that information. So it's used, one, to help us with programming. It's used to show that we are doing the work. It's also used to help us get some tools because we don't have the funding. I don't have the funding to be able to address this on my own. We need to address it from a national part. We also hear that REG data is discriminatory. So when somebody says, well, isn't that discriminatory? Well, no, it's our obligation. We receive federal funds. We're required to collect the data. So it's not a WSU requirement, it's a federal requirement for receiving funds. Then sometimes we'll hear, because this conversation can get super heated, what course of action do I take when a volunteer refuses to collect REG data? I would just say, remind them that it's federal funding. You're required to do it. And then of course, me and Jennifer talked about this yesterday, just kind of let her know what is going on and that that's impacting your ability to do civil rights and putting your federal funds at risk. What do I say to a participant who wants the same thing? I don't know why I did that. What can I do if I feel like I've been disrespected by a colleague or affiliate? So this is important because we're putting you in a situation where it's the right thing to do. It's the law. And then if you find yourself in a situation where you feel like you're being retaliated against or you feel like you're being bullied, WSU does have an anti-harassment, anti-discrimination policy. It's called EP15. It's the one we kind of talked about at the beginning. You yourself have the right to report it to your local extension office. You can report it to CCR, or you can follow those instructions and the And Justice for All poster. People are not able to retaliate against you for doing that. So I know you're gonna get a lot of kickback. This has not been fun. I've been doing this almost a year and I'm starting to get a better understanding of how this seems like some really enjoy doing this or some really understand it or some have a system in place and some do not. Just with that whole idea that this is mandatory, know that I'm not looking for perfection. I'm just looking for progress. I'm just trying to get us organized. Back in the day, we would all collect data. It would sit on someone's desk or on someone's desktop, and it didn't tell a full narrative and a full picture. So I am trying to assemble all this data and create a comprehensive picture to USDA and for WSU so we can dispel and disband some of the myths of who we are, or where we want to go. So we're gonna try to build that capacity. Just reinforce the importance of this awesome opportunity for service. I know that where I get twisted with volunteers is in one breath, I'll hear, I'm a volunteer and I'll think, oh, we're here to serve, right? Like, oh, this is about service. And then I'll kind of hear, I'm a volunteer, so you need to do what I'm telling you to do. And I would just remind them if, when possible, volunteering is about servant leadership. It's about service. It's about, meeting people where they are. That's what Extension is. Extension, that's why I started working for Extension, was because it was about helping communities help themselves. And that was very attractive to me. Also, just kind of, I don't know if you all have it in your manual. I need to reread the manual, but just kind of, what are the leadership skills and contributions of future generations? I'm in the process right now of creating a generational presentation that kind of talks about, this is where we are now, this is where we were, this is where we are now, and here's the future. And what skill set do we want the future to have? Because they are going to be the majority, going to be three-fourths of the workforce here in a couple of years. And then remind people that this isn't a DEI initiative. This is required as a result of receiving funds. So people will try to have this argument like around gender orientation and try to throw everything off the tracks. And it's, I can stop sharing. And just remind them that, hey, I'm asking male, female, other, unidentified. This is not DEI. This is a federal requirement. So that's really like the end of my spiel. It's a lot. I just wanted to get through because I wanted to leave time to really talk about if you have questions about the REG data, about the worksheet, about how to fill it out, where to go. And with Jennifer being here, she can help ask some of those questions too, or answer some of those questions.
Right, so thanks, Kenitra. I want to circle back to the idea of the observational versus self-identify. We have lots and lots of volunteers who have been with us for a long time. They have been trained for years to just provide an ocular approach and pick, is that person a male or a female? Are they, African American or Native American, Asian? We cannot do that anymore, and we need to retrain volunteers on how to give our participants an opportunity to self-identify.
Right, that is correct. That is no longer a way of, even if there's somebody who maybe presents a different way, I cannot dictate their identity for them. They must self-identify.
Yeah.
Do you need me to do something? How do I get that out? Do you have any ideas? Anybody have any ideas on how I get that out in a way that makes sense, or a way that people will read or come across?
I think providing some more just training that we can continually, I think verbally is really helpful for my volunteers. And if it doesn't come from me, I think it's also helpful. Like some CE half an hour training that they can watch or tune into. I know we had one from Pierce County a few years ago, but I think another one would be really helpful.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
I think if we had some kind of video or something where people talk about the impact to them of being like eyeball identified and how not okay that is to the person that you're doing it to, I think things like that may exist and might be a good training tool just to help people understand why it's not about finding the easy way, it's about respecting people's identities.
Thank you.
I think it'd be nice to have a recorded program on this that we can show at the end of our Master Gardener training, so we all have a resource. It'd be great if it was in person so people could ask questions, but I know that's not practical, so recorded materials.
How long do you think that content would need to be of length?
I guess I would defer to Jennifer as long as it takes. It could be 15 minutes or half an hour.
I was thinking 10 minutes.
Okay.
Cut to the
short.
chase.
I like that idea, and however long it takes, I was thinking 30 minutes, and it just seems like it would help unify us, and we'd all be able to distribute that equally.
Mm-hmm.
I could start working on. I'm not as you can see, most tech savvy. And I'm also a one person department too. So that's been the challenge of trying to collect data, trying to analyze data, trying to collect make training. WSU Extension is so different across the nation that it's so hard to find a plug and play or pull off the shelf training. So you're having to create content that is specific, but yet flexible enough to your institution. So I will get on that. I don't know how. We're in the process of doing some volunteer training that we're trying to get from Oregon State University. but it's still slow coming. So it's coming, but it's slow. But I can start with the recordings.
And Kenitra, there was a woman named Caitlin in Pierce County that did do a video during the pandemic. So if you haven't seen that, you might watch that, and Jennifer can probably get you the link. And I think it's posted on YouTube, perhaps.
Okay.
Yeah, it is. Yep.
And that might be a good place to start. And then, you could update it with, since I think that was done in 2020 or something. And I think that personal story is a great idea that Sarah mentioned on, and you even like tossed that in already, and that was very helpful
Right.
in this presentation. So yeah.
It would be exciting to have real master gardeners be actors and actresses in the video. But I don't know, that may make it more complicated and not get done that way, but I could see our master gardeners jumping at the chance to be in a video.
It's hard because I get mixed messages. I'm trying to assume positive intent. I'm always trying to assume positive intent, and it's hard when I'll be in a meeting and someone will just say, it's not a priority. We only do it every 7 years. When somebody is constantly telling me that we just don't do it, we're not with it. And it's hard for me when I'm like, so you're saying you don't ask yourself hard, challenging questions, but once every 7 years, and based on the way that I have to live my life, I have to ask a series of questions every day, right, to navigate. So I know that I'm kind of on this one end, and then there's some people on this end, and there's all this field in the middle. But it just seems like some of the programs have just two ends. And so and everything in between, but it's so hard sometimes for me to try to figure out who's on board, who's supporting, who's willing to roll up their sleeves, and then who's not, and that just becomes challenging.
So Janice put a couple things in, Kenitra. She said she'd be willing to help you with the training, and as am I. And then she also mentioned if you have volunteers in those protected classes, let us know, and we'll look at including in the educational offers.
That'd be excellent.
Yeah, Jennifer, I was referring to specifically the videoing.
Yeah.
Or just that short video, and I can help you with that, Kenitra.
Okay.
Thank you.
So Kenitra, when thinking about that you're on one end and there's other people on the other end, and there's all this stuff in the middle. I think it's the same in the Master Gardener program, right? I mean, we have
Right.
people who are ready and willing and pushing Extension to do more. And then we have people on the other end of that spectrum. But in general, I think that this group, the coordinator group, is, they understand, they want to be doing this work. They know the importance of this work and collecting the REG data. The hard part is going to be communicating that to all of the volunteers in such a way that the volunteers understand it and are willing to participate, because they are the ones that are in the public delivering the education. So, we as program coordinators can collect it from the volunteers, collect REG data from volunteers, but we rely on the volunteers to collect it from the participants. So it's kind of a two-step process for us.
Yeah, and I don't know how to reach them. I don't quite understand the argument myself. I'm going to talk to the volunteers, and I think after I get done talking to them, I'll have a better understanding of what is going on. To me, I grew up this way. I grew up always being asked, always being surveilled, always having to, provide my information. So it's kind of, I don't understand, and there's something I'm probably missing. And I would like to kind of hear from them or hear from this group on what am I missing that has got, is it just as political? Or what am I missing that's got so many people just entrenched and no, I'm not going to collect it, or no, I don't want to?
Well, I know, Kenitra, in Yakima, I've heard complaints from volunteers that they feel uncomfortable because they feel to ask for that information is invasive to the person's privacy. So those are the kinds of comments that I hear.
I hear those as well. Patty, I would second that. That's the single most common complaint I hear, is that it feels invasive, or the people that they are asking the data of react in a way that makes the interaction uncomfortable. They may react in a way that is like, why do you need that information? That's personal. That's, I think, Kenitra, that's the most probably prevalent reason.
I hear you.
I
I'm
think-
processing.
One thing that Kenitra that you've said today that you voiced it in a different way than I've heard it, is that it's everybody's personal right to define themselves. And I've never heard that information presented in that way. And I think that is a very powerful way to put it, that more people would understand, because I agree with the others. The pushback we get is people feeling uncomfortable asking for people's private data. But it really is everybody's right to define themselves in their way.
Okay, thank you for that.
You know, I was going to say that here in Island County, I used to have that pushback from the volunteers that they were uncomfortable asking that. And that's when they as volunteers had to collect that information, as opposed to it being self-communicated. Now that we've switched over to that model, I found a lot greater acceptance from the volunteers. And we've set up a Qualtrics survey. We put together this little, thing that we put on our tables, and say, at the end of our conversation, we say, would you, please take this survey. And at that point, it's up to the person, the customer, the client, to report that data. It's no longer on the volunteer. So I found that they're actually more willing to do that.
Thank you.
Great, thanks. Harmony, you have your hand up. I agree, Lauren. I think I've heard that before too. Yeah.
Yeah, we use QR codes here in Clallam County too. We have them at our booths and our public events. And I'm always making sure that I phrase it with the volunteers about how, and maybe you could correct me if I'm saying this incorrectly, that that we're legally required to offer an opportunity to the people who interact with Extension to provide us with this data. And that's it. That's the most important part, that we're legally required to offer people an opportunity to provide this data to us. And I love what you said about offering or respecting everyone's right to define themselves and to provide that data to us. So yes, thank you very, very much. I do. I always wonder, so my thoughts going forward with the volunteers is I would love to explore further how that data collection in GivePulse will be anonymous.
It will be. It will be.
Okay.
It will be. Daryl and I are working on it. Kenitra's been a part of that too. So it will be.
Oh, good, because I know once that goes live, we're going, woo.
Well, and that's
So-
really what we need to work through as a group.
Yeah.
That we're rolling it, because we need to roll it out with reapplication.
Sure.
And just to clarify, is that just for the volunteers themselves, or is that for the collection out in the community? Because I have some logistic questions that I don't want to diverge into and take away from this conversation happening.
Right. Okay,
but-
so let's get, Katie, I think you and I are on the same page, and I want to move to that, but I want to hear what Sarah has to say, and then we'll move to the logistics of how this is all going to float.
Thank you. And I think Hari has a hand up as well. I was going to say, I think that part of the resistance is not knowing how to do it, and that scripts and opportunities to practice will take some of there's kind of an unspoken, master gardeners are used to being good at what they do. They're carefully trained, they're prepared, and then they're being presented with the thing they need to do that is they don't know how to be good at yet, and that it's not going to solve all of the concerns, but it will help a lot to prepare them.
Sounds like role play. I need to do some role
Mhm.
playing. Got it.
Okay, Hari.
I just wanted to say that I think that the more training and tools that are given to the coordinators, the easier it will be to get it to trickle down to the volunteers. I feel like a lot of the coordinators are maybe resistant or not sure how to frame it with their volunteers. And so that's coming across in the training. For me, the volunteers is the same as Lauren said. They were more resistant in assuming people's information than they are in saying, would you mind taking this survey after they're talking to them? And so I think that's part of it. Is I know for me, when we first started, that there were volunteers who thought that it was required for everyone to do it. And so they were worried about having that engagement with the client, but letting them know that it's completely voluntary and that you're just giving them that option to identify has made a world of difference in our county.
Okay, great. I think that's a key point, Kenitra, that Hari just made moving forward with communicating to volunteers. The requirement is that we provide people with the option to complete the survey. They are not required to complete it.
I agree with that. I mean, I like that word.
Yeah.
I like the
I mean,
wording.
right, those aren't the right words, but
No, I get it.
yeah, okay.
I guess my question, and I appreciate this feedback, it's so valuable. I like these kinds of things, instead of just stand up here reading a PowerPoint of that. I guess here's my hope, and maybe I'm being naive. My hope is that once we collect the available REG and we do a parity analysis, and we see that, this is the available population to serve. The REG data says, this is who we're actually serving. And then each location kind of sits down and says, they ask themselves a series of hard questions. Is this what we want the future to look like? Is this what, is this what we want our legacy to be? Are we, what's our programming look like? What's the next round of volunteers gonna need to kind of look like? And so that's kind of my goal, but it's.
I don't think that's being naive. I think once that data analysis happens and we can show the story, tell the story, I think it's going to be meaningful to the volunteers and to us as a program coordinator group too. And I think that will, I don't know if inspire is the right word, but that's the word that comes to mind right now, us to do better with collecting the information.
So would it help? So when I talk to the volunteers, should I approach it from that aspect of, this data, this is what this data is going to tell you? Would that help the process or no?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. It's a good elevator speech, right? It puts it in context for us. Like we're not just collecting data just to have it. We're actually want to use it appropriately and make good changes.
Mm-hmm.
And Kenitra, I think, I know you will get back to them with that, and that's the key. If you tell them you're going to collect it, the key is to get back to them and tell them what you found out. Because if you don't, then they just pick up another piece of cynical.
Mm-hmm.
Has something happened with
Lots of
Nothing,
time.
nothing specific, but
Yeah, it's just it's kind of a pattern that we appeal to our volunteers when we need them historically, and when we don't need them, we don't necessarily revere them as much as we should.
Good to know.
Is that a politically good way of saying that?
yeah. And Katie, a lot of us can already see those gaps, which is absolutely correct. And I think that's why the volunteers will like to see the full story.
Okay, I'll leave with that then. I will redo some things.
Mhm.
And finesse that to maybe tell a better story. I guess I can get real clinical at times with this stuff, and I realize I'm too close to it. So I appreciate the feedback and allow me to take a step away and kind of see it from a different perspective.
Agree, Lauren. Getting, we can ask them to take the survey, but most don't. And so that's going to be another hurdle we'll have to. And that's, I think, in the training and in the role playing and.
And I have a different approach to, I'm hoping aspirationally. So Tom Davis, he made this barrier analysis. It's more for the medical field, but it talks about doers and non-doers. One of the challenges and shortfalls with REG data is we're only collecting it from people who attend, right? And then out of the ones that attend, it's who's actually filling out. So it's very small. And so I think part of moving forward is we're gonna have to find some non-doers, some people who aren't showing up to some of our programming, who aren't showing up to extension. And I think we're gonna kind of have to do some focus groups. And eventually, if we can ever get there, kind of, why don't you join Master Gardeners? Why don't you join extension? Or and so that's kind of aspirationally trying to figure out how to comply federally, but also figure out with this DEI, aspirational, social, justice, anti-racism, anti-oppression, like how do we address that? And then how do we make DEI and CR kind of overlap? So that's like phase 3. I just feel like we never get, it's almost that running joke, right? Like we take 3 steps forward and 4 steps back. And I think people think it's funny, but it's also exhausting. So just know that it's coming. It's just it's probably not gonna be next year.
Right. Okay, thanks, Kenitra. So a couple of points I want to make, and these are things that we're going to want your input on as the program coordinator group moving forward. So the first thing we have to do as a program is collect REG data from all of the volunteers in our program. We are going to accomplish that through GivePulse at annual reapplication. We will have a template at the statewide level for you to use and pull down into your county group with instructions on how to do it. Daryl Schlesser in King County has been working on it for a few weeks now. We've tested it a little bit. There's still some adjustments that need to be made. But we will continue this conversation about using GivePulse to collect REG data from Master Gardeners for 2024, for the 2024 REAP period. That will happen at the end of this year. Our goal is to have that ready to roll for September. It will be anonymous. And then once we get that data, it will get reported into that survey tool, or into the Excel spreadsheet tool that Kenitra showed you. So this is another important piece of information. Historically, for those of you who have been around for a while, you have reported your REG, your contacts, into the local county spreadsheet. We're moving away from that, and we are going to report it at the program level. So you will not report your contacts at the county level, you will report them at the program level. I will provide you with the spreadsheet and the location so that you can do that. It will ask you for your county or tribal location. Kenitra will then do the analysis and we can send it back to you at the county level. So it will be housed on Teams. The spreadsheet will be. Some other things that we need to talk about as a group on that. Do you still have that spreadsheet up, Kenitra?
And I can pull it up real quick. Just give me a second.
That'd be helpful.
Okay, let me. Can you see it?
Thank you. Yes.
Okay.
So some of the things that we need to work through together are, you know, the program or activity name. Do we want to just call it farmer's market, plant clinic, demo garden, or do we want to get more specific than that? Can we just put the description in the brief description section? In the NEFA program areas, these are not program areas that we choose. These are dictated to us, and we have to choose where our educational outreach offerings fit. Will you hit the button so we can look at the different options? Oh, anyway, it's what are they, Kenitra? You're on mute again.
It's 4-H and youth, garden, ag, natural resources.
Nutrition, food.
Yeah, it's 4 of them, and then there's other unidentified, which you can use for your volunteers and your advisory boards.
Mm-hmm. So most of what we have will fit under gardening, but I'd like to have a conversation around when we do local food work. Should that be in the nutrition category? I don't know why it's not. There it is. Okay. Food, health, nutrition, and family, community, economic development. So I don't want to get into it now because it's 2 o'clock, but these are things that I would like to get your feedback on and have some discussion around. And then the whole idea of whether or not it's educational outreach or advertising. So when we're at a farmer's market and a client comes and just wants information about our program, is that educational outreach or is that advertising? Thoughts?
Are we talking about that now, or is that future conversation?
Yeah, well, I'd like on this particular question, I'd like some feedback right now. Yes.
I would say that's
for me-
advertising your classes.
Hari, what were you going to say?
For me, how I have been doing it, which maybe is wrong, but anything that we consider a clinic, so our standard farmers markets and the like, we have been collecting the data. But when we do events like we just did Pride last weekend, where we consider those the other, educational outreach, then those I haven't been having those boxes at.
Okay. Any other thoughts?
Is there ever any time when you're at an educational outreach event that people come up and ask questions about plants that you have to give them information on?
Absolutely.
I don't think there is a place that we are at where there are not people who will ask a plant question. So that was our confusion in the beginning about how to differentiate.
Right. Mary?
I think whatever we decide, it should be as simple as possible. Like if it's at a clinic, it's all one thing. If it's at a promotional event, like what Hari just mentioned, a Pride event, then it's all the other thing. And the reason I say that is because we're already asking our volunteers to make complicated decisions about which program category questions fall into. I think it's going to be to have them also then have to track, wait, do I collect data on this one, but not that question? I think it's asking too much. I think it would be frustrating for them in the moment, and I don't think we'd have good results. So my vote would be to have, if it's a clinic, it's all one thing. If it's an outreach booth at a public event that's not a plant clinic, it's all the other thing. That's my 2 cents.
Okay, Patty agrees. Any other thoughts in favor of that or opposed to that? Caitlin agrees.
I agree with that.
Okay. All right. So that was sort of my thought too, but I wanted to get some feedback there. Okay. So we can run with that. So then we'll just need to decide what's what, which we can do. Yeah, agreed, Patty. Okay. So So what you can expect next then is the focus on collecting REG data from the volunteers through the annual reapplication. We are going to work on communication templates that you can use for your volunteer groups. We don't want this to be a surprise. We're going to start that communication, hopefully by the end of August, so that you can continually communicate about it, so that when in October or November, when you send out your reapplications, it's not a surprise to the volunteers. We have some ideas on what needs to be in those communications, and they will just be templates, so please feel free to modify as needed. But we're going to work hard on communicating upfront so that the volunteers understand why we're asking for it. And hopefully they'll be readily cooperative to provide us with the information. Jenna.
I wanted to remind folks, I just recently became aware that anybody can make subgroups on GivePulse. Please instruct your volunteers, go back through your list of groups. Make sure your county name is at the front of everything. I get asked a lot about different hours reports for county directors, for extension administration. And I don't know what county it is if it doesn't have your county at the beginning of it. For instance, last quarter, I had to just disregard about a little over 1,100 entries because I had no way of knowing where they were. And so when I download that report, that's how I know what county it is by the name of the group. So please make sure they put the county name first.
So the way we have it, most of them are like WSU Extension, Island County, WSU Extension.
Yeah, I can sort it that way.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of them that just say like,
Oh, you mean the subgroups don't have
the
it?
subgroups don't have the county names on them.
Yeah, okay.
So.
Understood. And I mean, we do an audit on groups fairly regularly because volunteers can create rogue groups even outside of the WSU system.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, until we get that turned off. Yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm just saying, until we get that turned off, if we do, we need to make sure that we know what groups there are and how we can identify those hours for the administration.
I think we're doing pretty good in the Master Gardener program. It's been a little bit since we found rogue ones anyway, so. Okay. So any questions, any further thoughts on Katie? So on, what do you mean? Data management, how are coordinators tracking this?
Yeah, I would love to just talk to people that have a great system, because we, send people out to the clinics, et cetera. They collect those, the forms, and they also collect numbers served. And then how do you get that back as a coordinator in a
When you
data?
say tracking this and data management, are you talking about REG data?
I'm talking about both, because I want to know how many people we serve, as well as within that, how many of those filled out the form, to give me an accurate.
Mm-hmm.
Because I would compare that with, we have, we served 100 people, one filled out the forms, we have that data, but we served 99 people of unknown.
Yeah.
So.
But you could also just unidentified. Like if I'm clicking, I click 100 people through the door.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like it's unidentified. So you can still capture the number, but you maybe didn't capture the REG data. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm just logistically
Gotcha.
curious how people are having their volunteers capture that.
Yeah, in Whatcom, we're not capturing REG data directly yet, and so this is very helpful. Because when we do workshops, we usually do, like many of us, a survey, a feedback form, like, was this information valuable, right? All those standards. And so I'm curious if adding the REG survey information on that same, and what, can we capture all that? Can we say, how'd you like the workshop? And at the bottom, can you provide us with this other data? Or isn't that not okay to do? Can we blend the two?
Kenitra, do you understand the question?
Yeah, sorry, that was a little confusing,
You
but
just want to ask the one survey and.
yeah,
all the
one
websites.
survey, like, hey, you came to this workshop and like, we want to get feedback about how we did with the content, but then also, rather than give them a separate survey, just include the REG information in that same survey.
You could do that. It's your choice. Just the survey fatigue is a thing, but I guess given 2 survey versus 1 long survey, but it's totally legit. You can do that.
Right, but then it gets to Caitlin's question of like, how do you then take that data back and break it apart? So yeah, okay, so that's.
Well, one survey would make it a lot easier.
Mhm.
What I was trained as, we couldn't, that the DEI had to be completely separate from anything else. So if that's not the case, that's new, because they didn't want it to be able to be tracked to any other survey information, is what I was told.
What do you
Caitlin?
mean? What, can you unpack that?
Yeah, I think, Caitlin, from what I've seen or what I was told before, the major thing is that you have to make sure that your survey is completely anonymous. So that was the conflict that we were having. There were emails attached or something like that attached to your survey. And so if you put the DEI on that, then it could be tracked. So you have to make sure that you're doing a completely anonymous evaluation, and then you can add the DEI on it.
The REG.
Yeah, REG. Thank you, Jennifer.
Yeah, that's a good distinction, because when we are capturing that information about, oh, how was this workshop or how was your clinic experience, sometimes we are wanting to gather contact information. So keeping those two separate is key. Thanks for that clarification.
And I have been on trainings that Kenitra has done where, Kenitra, you have said, and this is how I understood it. If I misunderstood, please correct me. But it is okay for us to collect the REG data in connection to a person, as long as it is not stored and cannot be later connected back to that person. Is that correct?
Correct. So it needs to be under lock and key, so to speak. Not everybody should be able to have access to it. And then it should not be a person who can, so for example, I tell you that I'm female, I'm Black and white, and I'm not Hispanic and Latino. And then if you deny me a service, you do not want to be the person that I say you discriminated against me because of my race. So they should be separate. You can collect it, but keep it separate.
Mm-hmm.
That was my concern with the new application, is it's right there in their application. So when they send it back, it has all of their information and the.
But it's a separate page, so it needs to be stored separately.
Except they're going to be sending it to me in an email, and it's all going to be in one spot.
Okay. Who else is going to have access to that?
Whoever takes over my job when I quit. No, when, you know what I mean, like it's in the nethers of email, whatever, however safe that is.
Yeah, we have the same scenario, right? Those applications come in, they get batched, and in our case, sometimes my admin person assists me in organizing some of that information and pulling names off to create a roster and those kind of things. So we would have to just separate that page.
Immediately. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would feel more comfortable taking that off the application and then sending everybody a Qualtrics survey. So it is very,
I agree with
is
that.
what I'm saying. I didn't mean to
Yeah.
be so
Yeah,
funky.
but I mean, we've tried that before and it doesn't work. We don't get the
You don't
information.
get it?
And then FYI, this is Jana. I am working with WSU data gurus on retention, what we have to retain, how we have to retain it. My hope is that we will exit with a standard structure of maintaining volunteer data so that everybody keeps it in exactly the same format and
That'd be great.
exactly the same type. So that should be coming out before the first of the year, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think for an application, like even when you apply for a job now, it is standard practice to ask on the application the RAG questions, and a volunteer application is no different. So it is okay to collect that information connected to the application. It just cannot be stored that way. And they don't have to answer it, right? Yeah. So Erica, one last question here. If the document containing the RAG data has no identifying information, does it still need to be kept under lock and key, so to speak? No. Right. That's what I thought. Okay. Well, Kenitra, thank you so much. This is, you know, it's work that we are required to do, and it's for a good reason. We will be able to use this information to guide future direction of our programming and our outreach to improve the diversity of our programs. And we have a goal to do that nationally in the Extension Master Gardener program. So we have to know where we are to know where we're going. So I appreciate your help. We will do everything that we can to support you. Please reach out and ask questions as you have them. And we'll see you next month. Kenitra is going to be on Staying Mission Driven tomorrow, and she will deliver a similar talk that she did today to the volunteers. So please know that but she's going to come at it from the perspective of, you know, we're going to be able to tell this story of where we are so we know where we're going. Okay, thanks everybody. Enjoy the rest of your day.